welcome back, knife nerds and everyday care people. It's the Big Canucker. It's in my Superman shirt today. And the reason I'm in my Superman today because I'm feeling damn super. I've got babies being born, new knives being put in my pocket, and I'm making some videos for my friends out there. So, if you like what you see, don't forget to mash that subscribe button. Share this, like it, and don't forget to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your top five weird knives that you owned. I also want to do a little bit of a call out here. Cedric and Ada, Pete down there, I'm going to tag you 5 weirdest knives that you own. How about Mr. Canadian Cutting Edge up there, a little northern than even me. Let's go with him and his top 5 weird. We've got Bearded Gear. Let's hear yours. How about my friend Patty from across the shuck, Patty's Potato Peelers? Let's see your top 5 weird knives. Let's get a couple of big boys in there, see if they listen too as well. How about Slicey Dicey? Let's see about him. Neves Knives, top 5 weird knives. Now we're going to happen to do the top 5 weirdest Spydercos that I own, and there are weirder ones out there, but these are the weirdest ones that I own. So let's go to the tabletop and we'll have a look. All right, the first one that I want to put out there, it's the 5th one, depending upon how you look at it. Now, the reason this kind of brought it to my eye is I ended up getting this here relatively a couple of days ago, and it happens to be a Spyderco Masada Ayub, and it's just weird looking. It's got this 3.65 inch crew wear blade onto it. It's incredibly thin. It's a back lock. It's got this big kind of goofy eye. It's got this negative angle on it. It just happens to be not your weird, your everyday pocket carry that's out there. I mean, and it's weird looking, but Masada Ayub is a tactical weapons expert, and I guess his design philosophy is knives should be there to cut and stab people, not things, and this one I think is quite good at both of them. All right, so that was my first one, and it's a good looking knife actually if you can get past kind of some of the goofiness. Now, my first Spyderco was a Spyderco Tenacious, and it was weird in my eyes. Like it had the kind of the way more handle to blade, the handle was so much bigger than the blade and had that goofy eye that I'd never seen in any other knife. And then once I ended up putting it in my hand, I thought, oh my goodness, this is really quite good. And that Spyderco Tenacious kind of set off something in me. And then I started to look at it a little bit more. And you have stuff like Sal Glasser's design philosophy is to design from the hand out. So how a knife feels and how it performs is more important than how it looks. And that happens to be, has carried him through an awful lot of excellent knives out there. And I think the Spyderco Tenacious, showing me that design philosophy and cutting some things with it, I was hooked after that. So, all right, so that's number 5. So let's go with number 4 or number 2. All right, this one happens to be a DLT trading exclusive, and I gotta say, I first saw this knife and I wanted one so badly. Now, it wasn't just this one. This is called the Spyderco Tough, and it's got this big monster crew wear blade on it, but the original one had all these crazy, almost like golfing divots in the blade and in both sides of the titanium. It was just really, really weird looking. It's got that negative angle to it. It's got this, was almost like kind of a raised eye. It's got this big old blood groove in it. That's more there to save weight and to be in strength. It's got this kind of 50-50 monster choil on it, but this choil works so well to get that really excellent grip in there, to do some fine work to it. And I thought, well, this big old thick blade here is going to be like trying to push a 2x4 through some styrofoam, but it's not. I laid this angle back so much. It's very thin behind the edge. It's a really, really slicey blade. And this negative angle, it took a little bit to get used to it. I thought, well, it's going to be really goofy with that negative angle. It's not. Once you get used to this negative angle, you can cut like a banshee with this knife, and it gives you such a great, solid, purchase. Your wrist angle is at such a good angle. So now if this blade here is a normal, it would be out here. So you'd have to kind of angle your way this way, and you don't have that kind of solid lock anymore. Right when you're pressing on something, you've got that good solid straight lock. It's an excellent knife to cut with, and the designer of this knife, Mr. Shemp, is an excellent, excellent knife designer. So let's put that aside here. So that's some of the Shemp Tough. And believe me, this is a tough, tough knife. All right, let's go with number, where's our next one here? Oh, here we go. Let's go with this one. This one happens to be designed by a fellow by the name of Michael Birch, and this happens to be called the Birch Chub or Chubby. And hey, I know we're all making jokes about this. You know what? It's short and fat, but effective. You know what? I'm not telling you if that's true or not. Let's just say, hey, my wife walks around with a smile on her face and a little bow-legged sometimes. So I don't know if I should get that much into it with you guys. But anyway, this thing here, overall length is 5.96, smaller than 6 inches. Here we go again. Blade length is 2.3 inches, but it is a really, really monster thick piece of S30V. This is, it's 4.5 millimeters thick, and it's 2 beefy slabs of titanium with these kind of round holes, and it looks like this is almost like a kind of a carbon fiber, kind of speed holes. It has the Michael Birch designed clip, and that clip is designed specifically for this. They didn't take any kind of off-the-shelf clip. They used the Michael Birch clip. It's got the Reeves integral lock onto it, and it's got, kind of flow-through construction with this kind of small G10 backspacer. It's got this false edge along the top. It's just a really, really unique, well-designed knife that, despite its size, it is really, really excellent. And this one here, you can tell it's a used knife, but this is a great everyday carry knife. I would not hesitate to take this, stick it in my pocket if I was heading out on a trip, because this knife will do everything I want it to do and more. And only that, it'll look good doing it. Now, it is weird, but it also is a good-looking knife. So let's kind of put that aside there, too. All right, so the next one here happens to be, ta-da, the Spyderco McBee. Now, who would have thought that a 1-inch bladed knife would be able to do a lot? Well, this one can. I mean, this is the McNeese designed McBee after his own knife called the Killer Bee. And this one is actually very, very close to the original custom Killer Bee by McNeese. Oh my goodness, I can't say that so much. Jonathan McNeese developed the McBee and the Killer Bee. Now, he can take these and customize them at his own shop, so you can buy a Jonathan McNeese customized McBee if you want, anodized different titanium. He also does something that's really, I wish Spyderco would do with this knife, and he puts some jimping along that edge. Now, when you do that jimping, it kind of turns it into a front flipper. Now, right now, this has got my favorite steel in it, which is CTS XHP. And the reason I love that knife, that blade steel so much, is when you sharpen it to be sticky sharp, it stays sticky sharp for a really long time. There seems to be some steel that's out there that seems to maybe oxidize along the edge, and you sharpen it, you leave it in a box, you pick it up 2, 3, 4 months later, and it doesn't seem as sharp. Whereas the CTS XHP seems, once you get it sticky sharp, it stays sticky sharp forever and for a long time, even if you're using it. So now this little bugger here is, you can do some customizing to this too as well. One of the things that he does is he puts this thing called a stinger in, and it's kind of a backspacer that looks like a little stinger, and it's just a cool little knife. He took a lot of time to design this knife with some really cool things. He's got these kind of countersunk speed holes in it. Even the pivots on both sides is kind of this this pounded out look to it. I just think it looks excellent. Now, this happens to have also the best looking finish on any knife blade that I love. It's kind of a stone washed, mirror polished edge, and whose knife really came along that way was Marcin Sleece. Like the Sleece Bowie had that, the sway back. It is, and you know what, the other thing is the edges are all broken up and just extremely smooth and comfortable. I really love the feel of this knife. I like the look of this knife, despite it being a little bit weird, and the functionality is there for being an expensive little piece of titanium and steel. So let's put that aside. Now, the number one weirdest knife, and it's number one not because it's the weirdest one, it's mostly the number one because it was the one that was over the far end of the table. happens to be, and this is not going to be something that everybody, I guess, has. This happens to be a bombshell, a Spyderco Bombshell. It was also designed by Michael Birch, and this one here is called a flash batch, where there's only 12 of these, 1,200 of these made. After that, they took the tooling and they kind of broke it up, and so there will never be another one of these in this iteration done ever. And this one happens to be, I think, $9.89 at a 1,200. It's got this really weird looking toucan bill slab of 20 CV. It's really, really thick. I mean, this thing here is 4 millimeters thick. And now you've got this kind of sculpted G10, and I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but it almost looks like it's a green wood grain pattern. Like, it's really, really weird. Like, it's not just polished. It's got this really weird kind of wood grain texture to it. So it's also got two little thin pieces, not even thin pieces, fairly thick pieces of titanium inside there, and a green G10 backspacer. I just think that this is a really, really excellent, weird looking knife. Now, some people call it the toucan, some people call it the danger pickle. It's got that Michael Birch clip on it too, just same thing as the Birch Chubby. That's kind of one of his trademarks. It's got a excellent hollow ground. I don't know what the side of this blade is. 2.98 inches, or 3 inches. It's just an excellent, excellent design by another excellent designer, is in Michael Birch. So that one is there. Now, the one thing I did have a chance to look up is every one of these, for whatever odd reason, are made in Japan. Or not Japan, or in the Far East. So it's either Japan or Taiwan. So this one is made in Taiwan. This one's made in Taiwan. The Ayub is made in Japan, Seki City. This here happens to be made in, the Tough is made in Taiwan. And the McBee, where's that made? The McBee is made in Taiwan. So it seems to be a Far East bonanza. Now, before we go, a couple of honorable mentions, and they're kind of opposites themselves. One of them happens to be this big old Subvert. Now, this big old Subvert is built in Taiwan too as well, but it's got, I don't know, really, really thick, 4 millimeter thick of this S30V steel. Now, there's two monstrous thick pieces of titanium inside there, but it also had this really weird orange handle G10 from, right from factory, and I hated that orange. Like, it was so bright and gaudy, but I mean, it's just a weird looking knife. Now, this one here is made by a fella by the name of Nadi Amor. He's an Israeli goldsmith, and he just designed a really good looking functional knife, and this is one of my favorite ones to carry. But it is a little bit dangerous. I mean, it has got this big honking piece of titanium on it, and it's so drop shutty, but it is also so damn sharp. This is a really functional blade. Now, despite being so thick, this thing cuts like a demon, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It just wasn't weird enough to totally make the list. I don't want to put that aside here. Oh, well. Now, here's another little honorable mention. It happens to be the Meerkat. Now, this Meerkat here was also designed in Japan, Seki City, or built in Japan, but it's got a really weird thing to it. Now, one of the weirdest things to it is, of course, it's got this here with these kind of scallops in the handle. Not only is that kind of weird, it's also got what's called a phantom lock. And one of the funniest things is to hand somebody this knife and say, hey, how do you close this knife? And I see people looking around and they press and they're like, oh, what's going on? You actually take the two handles, or the two G10 slabs, and they'll actually turn. See? They'll rock ever so slightly, and then it'll close just like that. So you can see, and so as long as they're not opening it, you can see how that moves. That little handle, that G10 moves that way, and then the lock engages. So, just like that, and it'll close. Bob's your uncle. But just a weird little lock. So this is a kind of an honorable mention. So, I hope you guys like what you had to see here. I thank you guys for stopping by, having a look. Please, if you like what you saw, please, don't forget to give me the thumbs up, subscribe. stay safe out there. Keep your stick on the ice. The shiny side up. This is the Big Canucker saying adios.